Hi, my name is Penny and welcome to my channel. So the other day I made my very first booktube video and I thought that today I would do the new to booktube tag to introduce myself and say hello, I'm new to booktube. So I'll link the original tag video down below, but there's 15 questions, so I should probably just get into it because I don't like my videos to be too long. Alright, so the first question is, where are you joining us from? So I am from New Zealand, Auckland in New Zealand, which is why my accent is so weird, although I don't know that my accent is very New Zealand either. I blame watching too much television as a child. The next question is, how old are you? So it's weird for me to think about it, but I'm actually 37. Don't know how I got so old, but obviously that's a lot older than the average booktuber. Although if you're an older booktuber and you like similar books to me, which I'll talk about later, please let me know below because I would like to follow more people my own age. Not that it really matters how old you are. So then the next question is, why did you start a booktube channel? Or something like that. I didn't write down the exact words, so we'll ad-lib on the questions a little bit. So why did I create a booktube channel or a booktube video? I guess I've been watching booktube for quite a while now, and I've always kind of been meaning to create my own videos just to kind of be more active in the conversation and get a chance to talk about the books that I'm reading, not just the books that other people are reading. And I think second to that, I want to get better at talking about books and spend more time thinking about the books that I read. So hopefully by starting a conversation, we can do those things. So the next question is, what is the meaning of your channel name? So this is another one where I'll show my age. Back in 1999, yes, the last millennium, I got the internet for the first time and I was setting up a Hotmail account and I didn't want to have something with a number in it because by then already it was very hard to come up with a username that didn't have a number in it. And I think I saw one along the lines of Violet Pants and I thought, oh, that's a good username right there. I don't know, I was young. So then I liked the idea of having a colour and a word, so I came up with Lethal Lime. The idea being that lime is green, green represents jealousy. At the time, I was jealous quite a lot. Jealousy can be lethal. Lethal Lime. I've been going by Lethal Lime for a long time now. You can pretty much find me all over the internet as Lethal Lime. I get really mad when somebody's already taken it, so please don't steal it on new platforms from me. So yeah, starting a booktube channel, I just went with Lethal Lime because that's who I am. So the next question is, what kind of books do you read? So primarily I read fantasy, sometimes a bit of science fiction. If someone sells me on it being a really good storyline, then maybe contemporary, but usually if it doesn't have some kind of magic or some kind of like far out scientific craziness, I get a bit bored because most of the stuff that you can have in contemporary, like the relationships and the intriguing plot lines and all that kind of stuff, you can still have that in fantasy and science fiction, but you can also have magic. So I don't know why you just settle for part of that and not the rest. But it is true that sometimes books can be good enough that they don't need magic. Sometimes. I tend to read a fair amount of YA just because on BookTube you tend to hear about good YA a lot more. But I don't know, I've been thinking lately that I need to track it more about how many adult books I read. I always say adult because whenever I hear about adult books I think it's like erotica, which isn't right, but that's what I think about. So then the next question is, who are your favourite authors? So I particularly like stories with really amazing worlds and good magic systems. So Brandon Sanderson, of course. V. Schwab is a really good example of one with cool worlds. Patrick Rothfuss, if he ever comes out with another book. And I guess as well I should probably say Ilona Andrews, because the Kate Daniels series is probably my all-time favorite series. The next question is, what is the last book that you read? So I just finished Empire of Storms by Sarah J. Maas. I had been pretty ho-hum about that series until this book, but I really enjoyed Empire of Storms. I just liked the way that everything came together, even though some of the relationships seemed a bit forced, and I don't know why everybody seems to be in a relationship and paired up. But other than that, I found it really emotionally engaging and really interesting and surprising, and I liked it a lot. The next question is, what are you currently reading? So I'm reading Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Sean M. Maguire, and so far I'm really enjoying it. I'm about halfway through, and I'll probably talk more about my thoughts about that book in my Spookathon wrap-up. Let's hope that I stay motivated enough to keep this booktube thing up for at least a week, huh? I am great at starting things, not so good at finishing. The next question is, what do you use for a bookmark? So I use these kind of bookmarks. They're like these little clip things, and then they have a ribbon, so you clip it onto the front of the book, and then you can just put the ribbon in and take it out, and you don't lose them because they're attached to the book. They're really good, and I have a bunch of different pictured ones. The only problem with them is that they can damage your books because they go on the top of the cover, and if they're in your bag or something, which I often take my books out and about, then when it wiggles it can leave a little dent in the top of the cover. So if it's a book like a library book, or a book I'm borrowing from someone, or a book I want to keep in pristine condition, then I can't use those, which is a bit of a shame. And instead I have a massive pile of Book Depository bookmarks that I just grab one from, because if I lose it, I don't really care. I've got 10 million gazillion of them. The next question is, show us your current TBR. So my current TBR at the moment is basically the Spookathon TBR video that I posted the other day. If I'm feeling organized, motivated, maybe I will now add a quick scroll of my bookshelves, which are pretty much my TBR shelves. It depends how motivated I'm feeling. What you're seeing right now, maybe you're still seeing me. I also tend to read a lot of newer books as library books, because that way I can decide whether I like them before I buy them. I tend to only buy and keep books that I really like and that I would want to read again or lend to other people, but I also will buy books when they're really cheap, and that's where my big TBR shelves have come from generally. I have been getting hassled by my family for having so many unread books, so I am trying to make a dent in that and keep the number down. Alright, so the next question is hardcover or paperback. I prefer paperback for sure, also ebook or physical. So I really like, as I said, I often read books when I'm out and about, and especially when I'm walking, because I don't have a car, I walk a lot, and reading on my phone is actually the best. So I have Overdrive on my phone and I read library books while I'm walking places. So in that case I prefer ebooks, but when it comes to reading just before bed, physical books are 100% the way to go because they help you get to sleep, whereas ebooks can sometimes, I find, keep you awake because of that screen glare. So I'm 50-50 on ebooks and physical books. And the next question is owning versus borrowing. So again, I only really want to own books that I really like and that I'd want to lend out or read again. So I really like borrowing books if I just want to get a feel for are they any good, or just to read the newest ones and decide what I think about them. Borrowing books you can definitely get through a lot more if you have a limited budget, so borrowing books is ace in my opinion. So the next question is books that got me into reading, and I have some of them here because I get excited about them. So back when I was very young, I don't actually know how old I was, but I started reading the Babysitter's Club books. These were so foundational to me, so I still have kind of all the first ones in pretty mint condition, if I do say so, although this one not so much mint condition. It's a bit tattered, and some of them are like that. I have all the way to number 52 of the Babysitter's Club books, and then a few ones after that. I love these books as a kid, and I think that they really kind of set a lot of values and help me understand different ways of life, so these books were great. Then when I was a teenager, what mostly kept me reading was Christopher Pike books, so ones like Remember Me was a classic, Final Friends trilogy. I still have some of these, or most of them I've bought since then because I want to reread a lot of Pike books. Christopher Pike is essentially like Stephen King for teenagers, or another way of looking at it might be Goosebumps for teenagers. It's definitely in that middle ground between those two, and I read so many of them as a teenager, and I really enjoyed them. The way they're kind of like a scary mystery, and the actual truth of the story turns out to be so strange and completely different from what it began as. So yeah, those books really sort of set a foundation for me as a reader, and then I've pretty much been reading ever since, although a few years ago I started reading much more. I think in my 20s I got a bit distracted by life and playing in a band and music and getting drunk and all that stuff. Then I settled down a bit in my 30s and found a lot more time for reading. So the next question is, how did you discover Booktube? And I honestly don't remember. I do think that Regan from Perez Project was maybe one of the earlier booktubers that I started watching. But I don't really remember how I found her channel. I think I stumbled across it when I was looking at vlogs, and it was a readathon of some kind, and I discovered a whole bunch of videos, and ever since then I pretty much mostly just watch Booktube now. A few other people, but mostly just Booktube, because I love hearing people talk about books. And I've discovered so many great books through Booktube. And the next question is, what challenges do you think you're going to have with your Booktube channel? So I think time. As I said, I've been wanting to kind of do this for a while, but I really just haven't had the time and the motivation and the energy to do it. But at the moment, I'm kind of not working, which is cool. I've got lots of time to do all the stuff that I want to do, but once I get back to working, I'm not really sure how well I'm going to be able to keep it up. The other challenge I think is actually just talking. As I said, I would like to get a lot better at talking about books and just talking fluidly and eloquently and not be a mumbly mess of confusion and lack of clarity. So yeah, that's a challenge. And then the last question is, where else can we find you on the internet? So as I said, I'm Lethal Lime pretty much anywhere. You can find me on Twitter and Tumblr and Instagram as Lethal Lime. So come say hello. And that's all the questions. So I hope that helped you get to know me a bit better, and maybe it was interesting. If you think that you would like to talk to me about the kinds of books that I mentioned, then subscribe, comment, all that YouTube stuff. And thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.